I'm Sophia, and this is the ultimate podcast for celebrating all things wonderful about our beautiful island. Welcome to Destination Cyprus. Hi everyone, welcome back to Destination Cyprus. As you know, we're a podcast that celebrates all things wonderful about our beautiful island, and that includes people from Cyprus who are making their mark and boosting our image from other locations too. Our next guest is no exception. He's the executive director and co-founder of Hellas Direct. Emilios Markou, welcome.
Thank you. Great to see you. And great. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's lovely to have you here and in the middle of summer too. So very grateful that you've taken the time to visit us. You first appeared on my radar as shortly after the pandemic. So when we were coming out of the pandemic and things were subsiding, we started doing physical events again. And you came over in 2022 for the EY Entrepreneur of the Year Cyprus Award with Alexis. And that was the first time I heard of Hellas Direct and the impact and the relationship that it had with Cyprus. And I really want to talk about the journey that got you there. Because insurance, not the first thing I would have thought when I looked through your CV. So I'm going to take a quick trip back to your education because it's really interesting. You left Cyprus to go to the University of Manchester where you did computer science. And then you went to CAS Business School, and I can't say this word without my tongue getting tied. Actuarial science.
That's the one.
Right, that's the one. And from there to the Institute and Faculty of that science, and then to London Business School. So there's a lot of finance in there. For somebody who's watching and doesn't understand, we'd love to know, what was it that drew you to computer science and what is actuarial science?
One word, randomness. And to be honest, and that's one of the things I keep telling my kids and our kids' friends is that I'm an example of how random things work in life. So I grew up in Cyprus, in Nicosia. I went to the English school. And around 1989, I wanted to go and study in the UK, as you do, right? Despite the fact that my dad had studied in the US, I was encouraged to go to the UK. I got a scholarship, and the scholarship was in computer science. Computer science at the time, there was no internet. The internet was not even a word. The screens were green, and your future as a computer scientist was fixing keyboards for the bankers when they spill their champagne after celebrating. That was the future of a computer scientist, right? 30 years later, computer scientists calling the bankers for their IPOs and stuff like that. So at the time, it was not sexy. It was something that, my parents couldn't understand what this thing was. But one thing I have to give it to them was go, and do whatever you want. So after 3 years doing computer science in Manchester, with most of the other Cypriots in Manchester who, guess what, they did accounting and finance and economics and law and stuff like that, right? I was probably a couple of us were the odd man out, right? And then at the time, Accenture, at the time was called Anderson Consulting, was opening a huge office in Manchester. So they hired everyone, including me. And then they realized that I don't have a work permit. So they told me, why don't you go to Greece and work there? So I went in 1993 from Manchester to Greece. And after a month, I resigned because I thought, this is not a place I want to work. This is a place I want to come and party, right? That was my view. So within a month, I had to choose what to do. So I had to do something with maths, not accounting, not law, and actuarial came up. And I ended up in City University on the 17th of September, 1993. I had no idea what this was. Anyway, I went there. I fell in love with the whole idea of actuarial, which is pretty boring things. But if you like maths and computer science, there wasn't much you could do other than fixing keyboards for the bankers, right? So I did my master's there, and then I got a job in an insurance company in Kent. I fell in love with this thing that was called actuarial at the time, and I spent 3-4 years studying to be an actuary. And then I qualified, and the day I qualified, I thought, that's not for me. I don't want to be an actuary.
You're a fellow, aren't you?
Yeah, I became a fellow. I actually,
By the way.
I resigned the day after I qualified. So I went to see my boss in 1999. I said, dude, that's it. That's the end of the road. He said, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm 29 years old. I'm going to do a couple of months of windsurfing, and then I will figure it out. And probably, they had to call in. Again, my parents, amazing people, said, you can do whatever you want. Most of my friends, family thought that this guy is totally wacko. Why does he become an actuary and join, a big kind of actuarial firm, blah, blah, blah. So then I went to London Business School, and then I joined McKinsey, first in the UK and then the US, consulting insurance companies, doing a bunch of interesting projects, both in the US, Asia. So I did the consulting thing for 4 years. And then somewhere between project number 40 and 41, and having collected 2.5 million air miles from everywhere, I thought I have to go to the dark side. Dark side, banking, so I joined Goldman Sachs in 2003.
Interesting. All right, the dark side. Tell me more about the dark side then,
Very
because
dark.
Anybody else would have thought, wow, amazing,
it's
great opportunity.
Again, think about the context of the time. I mean, technology was beaten up. That was straight after the dot-com boom and bust, right? So in 2002, 2003, you couldn't get a job. Google did not exist. I mean, by the way, Pichai, who's now the CEO of Google, he was an analyst at McKinsey. So he was still being groomed at the time, right? So there was no VC. Amazon was trying to find its, bearings or whatever. And banking was the thing to do, right? And like everything else in life, I was a brand bitch. So I was collecting brands. I did consulting. I did the FIA. Now Goldman Sachs is the way to go. And it was and it still is an amazing company. I joined the investment banking. I worked on some really interesting trades. And I lived the whole experience until 2008 with the big crisis. I then went to another dark side, Barclays Capital. In the meantime, I met my co-founder, Alexis Pantasis, two Cypriots in the city. We had lunch together and we became friends.
One thing led to another.
Yeah. So we started the entrepreneurial journey from back then. We started investing in friends' companies. We're probably the only Cypriots who did not have a real estate in London, so no flats, no houses and stuff like that. But we invested in startups. Some of them did really well. Some of them went to shits. But we got the sort of excitement of doing our own thing. So we said, okay, let's start our own company. Idea number one, start up a coffee shop in London, the two of us. 2007, 2008. We thought, okay, banker, coffee shop. Anyway, so we went through various kind of ideas. But the idea that kind of won us over was, because I was in insurance most of my life, as a consultant, as an actuary, and so on. And you realize one thing: insurance is by far the most unsexy industry, next to funeral homes or something like that. So it's not far from that, right? But it's huge. Okay, Warren Buffett, he's an insurance guy. He owns Geico. He owns Hellas Direct, an enormous version of Hellas Direct in the US, right? And it's very much anti-cyclical. So when the world goes to shits, insurance goes really well. Not all insurance, non-life insurance. So when I was in the US in 2001, we realized that all insurance companies that started September 12, 2001, did really well. And when the crisis came in 2008, 2009, one thing at the back of my mind was like, okay, it's a good time to start an insurance company. So I convinced Alexis and we quit our jobs and started traveling for a couple of years to understand what kind of insurance company we wanted to build and where. We could have done the same thing in the UK, we could have done the same thing in Germany or the Balkans. And that was when we came up with the idea of Hellas Direct, a brand new insurance company in this part of the world, taking countries like Greece. Cyprus is too small, but countries would have 11, 12 million people. There's many of them. There's Romania, it's Czech Republic, Slovakia. That was the whole idea behind it. And we started.
You see, okay, there's two things that really jump out at me there as a woman. One is you must really like Alexis because it seems like, to begin to embark on an entrepreneurial journey with any other one person, always a risk, different personalities, different lifestyles, different schedules.
Yep.
That must have worked. Was there really good chemistry, or are you both just quite laid back and...
I think that, again, looking back, you need to have two things before you even start. First of all, you need to have the backing of your family, your wife, your family, and that backing comes in various forms. That it's okay for you to go and do these things. It's okay for you to go and fail. It's okay for you to go and figure out this dream of yours, right? It's really, really tough to get that right, because if you have high requirements, a big mortgage, demands from everywhere, children education, lifestyle, whatever it is, that is a killer.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're not good as a country, as people, to accept failure. We're not good at that. Because what do you mean you're going to fail? What do you mean there's a risk of failure, right? That's number one. Number two, you also have to figure out from personally what you're about to do. This is not you're not doing it for money, you're not doing it for glory, you're doing it because this is something that you really want to do, okay? And again, we're really bad at that. We say, wow, you become an entrepreneur to become a billionaire. No, that's not the fucking point you're doing, right? So once you have that figured out, then the area you have a huge passion. And it's not like, hey, because real estate is good, let me do that, or restaurants are good. What is your passion? The Greek word is meraklis. What is it that you really want to do? If it's sandwiches, I'm going to make the best sandwich ever, right? Now, once you do that, and back to your question, you need to figure out who your co-founder. You need a co-founder, right? 2 is good, 3 is too many, 4, forget it, right? When you talk to a co-founder, a potential co-founder, you're not gonna go to your friends. We were not good friends with Alexis before. We became good friends. That's very important, because you need to find someone that you respect, someone you can go and fight with, right? Now, there's so many cliches about it. When you are in this sort of startup scene, you don't have a family. You have a professional team around you, right? A family is, you have to accept your drunk uncle. When you have a professional team, you cannot do that. Now, if you are Chicago Bulls, if you don't play, you're out, right? So that was one of the things that brought us together, right? And it was a point that you could see both of us in 2011, 2012 really, really wanted to do that. And we can give you thousands of stories of what happened when the whole thing was falling apart and we're starting a company, right? But you need to have someone next to you that you can joke, you can see through things, and you can literally see this world 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Many founders would find their best friend. So like, okay, who's going to do marketing? George. Why? He's my good friend. No, that's a big mistake.
It's a recipe for disaster, isn't it? And so I didn't know, actually. It's nice to hear that, because I didn't know there was that much history in insurance. I knew that you'd been advising clients. So what was the actual mission? What was the differentiating factor when you guys decided, okay, let's do this? Why are you different?
Okay, I think insurance is something that has worked for the last 300-400 years around. And for us, the inspiration was really the US. It wasn't Europe. Because Europe, even today, we still haven't cracked a homogeneous, uniform way of doing banking or insurance. But in the US, you could see 2 ecosystems starting. And it was, we're now using the word ecosystem, quite freely. But at the time, it was quite an ingenious kind of thing. And there were 2 big ecosystems backed by Warren Buffett, by the progressives, by all these humongous companies, mobility and housing. So what these guys achieved in the US effectively was the ability to say, okay, you own a car, I'll take care of it. I'll insure it. So if something happens to you, I'll pay. I'll fix it for you. I'll service it for you. I'll give you financing. That was the whole idea. And same with the houses. And these companies, even in the sort of early 2000s, were humongous. I mean, Geico is making more than $30 billion a year. They spend more on marketing than Coca-Cola. When you look at the Super Bowl ads, it's all insurance companies. If you want to work in marketing in the US, you have to work for an insurance company. So we saw that. And we said, okay, that doesn't exist in Europe. There were some glimpses of hope. Direct Line in the UK, Admiral, but Europe was kind of nowhere. So we said, okay, let's do that. And we actually met at the time in 2011, we met a lot of interesting people. We actually met Lou Simpson, who was the number 2 guy after Warren Buffett in Geico. So he told us, guys, do you have 10 years? Yes, go for it. But you need to see that this was going to take time to build. You had to build the whole infrastructure, but keep your eye on this concept of an ecosystem, that you're going to be taking care of cars and homes. Also decide what you're not going to do. We don't do healthcare. We don't do life. We don't do asset management. We don't do any of this shit because you need to focus on the things that you do. The example I use is like, imagine if you go to your, souvlaki place and the guy offers you sushi. Would you buy it?
Welcome to Cyprus.
Exactly.
We do that a lot.
Exactly.
We do that a lot.
Yeah, no, it's just souvlaki. Okay. But scale up and make sure that this actually takes the whole 360 part of the ecosystem.
And the majority, we'll get onto AI later, but you still have the personal touch, don't you? There's still person-to-person contact. It's not all. I know that mostly it's online. It's very fast-paced. But the team is how big?
We have close to 300 people.
Wow, okay.
But the problem, again, two things. First of all, insurance, we are what we call distribution agnostic. So we sell insurance through direct, through aggregators, through partnerships, even through brokers. And we have multiple brands. And someone can buy insurance. For example, in Romania, we have 600,000 clients. All of them are through brokers. In Greece, half of them are digital. The other half are through kind of brokers and stuff like that. The most important thing, though, and that's our product, is when you crash. We sell claims. Insurance, anyone can do. It's a piece of paper that promises you wonderful things if something happens. But when you crash, when something happens to you, that's when we come in. Every day, we fix close to 400 to 500 cars in 3 different countries. And that, you need to have physical people. By the way, when you crash, you're not going to go into an app. You're going to call. I haven't met a single person in the last 40 years that when he or she crashes says, let me just go online. Like, no. Even me, when I crash, get the fuck over here. Like, exactly.
You need help.
And you need the garaging and all of that. So it's a very kind of labor-intensive thing. So I think insurance combines both of them. You need to build digital processes, payments, reminders and blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to it, both on the sales side, but certainly on the fulfillment side, it's very physical.
And you've expanded. So you've just mentioned Romania and Greece, and you're in Cyprus now. The operations.
With operations in Cyprus, it wasn't a market for us. Frankly, we came by accident here.
Okay.
We went to Greece, and at the time, Greece was going through a meltdown. The regulator actually had just closed down, so we need to get a license from somewhere. So it was going to be either Malta or Cyprus. So we came to Cyprus. We're connected, and once we started, we said, okay, our home market is Greece. 11 million people, 6 million cars, off it goes. Now, Cyprus was always going to be a sideshow, where if we could sell something. But then we realized that Cyprus is a very, very difficult market to crack. Highly fragmented, tiny, personal relationships. The banks are screwing up the place. Happy to talk freely about banks for as long as you want. But, we said, okay, let's go from Greece into countries that look like Greece. We're never going to go to Germany or England or Italy. But it's like when you're looking for habitable planets, you look for the planet which is not too close to the sun, it's not too far away. So we identified 5 countries almost 5 years ago. Romania, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Croatia. And these are the countries we're expanding into. Those 5 countries plus Greece, they're bigger than Germany. So you can actually go and make a big difference in these markets. Now, Cyprus for us is less than 2% of our annual revenue. It's a home for many things. Our headquarters are here, accounting, finance, all of our sort of payments are being managed from here. So I think overall we'll have a central kind of role in our business, but it's not the market, it's the people.
Well, I was going to say, actually, tell me about the other side of the people, the resources and hiring. Do you find that that there's a different work ethos in Greece? Is it more manageable for you? Do you find that people are excited by what you guys are doing in terms of the mission and the values?
I need 5 hours to
Yeah.
You can write a PhD.
I'm trying to throw them all in.
To be fair, the good things and bad things. On the good side, and I'm not going to talk about the difference between our generation, millennials and X and stuff like that, and whatever, the Z and stuff like that. I think average age in our company is 32 years old. But that's the sum of, or the average of many, many things happening. Cyprus, we're very good at, having talent in, accounting and finance, in regulatory services, in legal. That's something that we have pretty good. We have the Big Four and the rest of the accounting companies creating good talent. That's absolutely fine. Also, we have talent who've gone through some technological development advancement. So we have technology talent as well. Not as good as we think we have. But if you're looking for 30, 40 people, you can find them. If we're to look for 5,000, it will be very, very difficult, right? And I ignore the distortion of Limassol. What we don't have in Cyprus right now is the two things that we found in Greece and in Romania and Czech Republic. The willingness to go and do stuff, okay, and just go out there and conquer the world. The Greeks, found that or discovered that during the crisis. Imagine now if you're a 20-something-year-old guy from a poor neighborhood when the unemployment is at 75, 80%. Your option is work at a bar or at Hellas Direct, right? It doesn't mean you're going to become the CFO, the CTO, whatever, but everything else, customer service, operations, and then rise through the ranks from that side of things, it was amazing. And we actually picked 30, 40 people over the last 10 years, which are just amazing individuals.
Still with you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And their background is anything. We had people from agriculture, from people who did, social studies or anything, right? But these are the guys who came as raw diamonds, and you can work on them. Now, the third one is specialist guys. And on the specialist side of things, in the beginning, we thought that wrongly, that you can coach everyone to be a specialist. You can't. And we had to bring in specialist talent, usually from the UK or from the US. Brexit helped us a lot. So if you want a 10-year experienced engineer or an AI specialist or someone who's specializing in house engineering, stuff like that, you need to bring that talent. So if you look at our organization, it's a mixture of all these three things. It's a mixture of the Cyprus, steady hand, married, 2 children, accountant, the guy who came out of the crisis who said, send me to Nepal, I'll go. Just give me a knife, I'll go. And the specialist guy who's coming in saying, hey, you know what? I got it. I know AI. I used to do that in Facebook, in Meta, in Google, and so on. So that's more or less where we are.
How do we change that? I mean, what can we do with education to spark that enthusiasm in the next generations? Because I can see it. I wouldn't say it's waning. It's just that when I think how hard I worked, for example, just to gain experience, they don't seem very willing to do that anymore here, particularly.
Okay. How controversial do you want to be? From 0 to 10?
Go for it.
Okay. Change the parents. There's nothing wrong with the education system, right? The education system will give you the chance to go to a university, right? And guess what? We're actually pretty good at that. We go to good universities and, ranging from local university all the way to Oxbridge and Harvard and stuff like that. The problem is after that, right? We don't allow the individual to mature on their own, okay? Whether it's go to Brazil and work for 10 years in a media company, right? We don't allow people to take anti-cyclical bets. No, my parents and my wife told me, okay, you're going to go to Athens in 2011. Okay, for a few days, they thought I was going crazy. They probably asked the priest to come and see me that there was something wrong with this guy. But beyond that, they said, go get them, right? We don't do that. They're like, oh, you don't want to be an accountant? Why? I cannot believe that even today, more than 50% of the people want to become chartered accountants or lawyers or...
It must be fear and the need for security.
Yeah, but this is the problem that and again, take Singapore as an example, right? They came from the same background as Cyprus, right? They took some drastic decisions, but most importantly, and that's one thing I try to do with friends and family friends and stuff like that, guys. It's okay, let it go. You've given this child, this young guy, all the background, right? Now let them figure it out. Let them fail, right? We don't accept failure. Social failure, business failure, we don't accept that. Our neighbors in Israel, it's all about failure, right? We don't accept that you may know more than your parents, right? No, they know. What do you mean? Marketing, I'll give you my friend who's 80 years old, I'll tell you about marketing. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, these are the things we do. And back to your question, I think in order to change that, you need to change the mentality of the people. Now, certain things work. Look at Limassol. For one reason or another, we created this thing. Okay, through hook or through crook or whatever it is, we did it, right? How come this is only in real estate in a very specific place, and how come we cannot replicate that across the board? Why don't we have 4 amazing banks? Why don't we have 4 amazing pharmaceutical companies? Why is it just Trilogy? talking to the sponsor as well.
Yeah, it is. I definitely feel like talking to people like you, and especially on this podcast, it's like it makes me very sad that we lose talent to other countries. We have to find a way to retain talent, because the people who are generally the go-getters and the doers and the enthusiastic people end up leaving, which is a shame. Yes, I agree. Real estate, tech. In Limassol now, there are so many openings that we've got this influx of the ICT companies. But yeah, no, it goes back to what you're saying. And the scary thing is that nobody realizes that you have to put in the work. I mean, Hellas Direct is a 14-year journey already. Yeah. And that must have been a very tough journey. People just want to click their fingers, be successful. It's not going to happen, is it, without the hard work?
And again, one more comment on Cyprus, and I'll come back to the sort of the journey. I think the other important thing is that you have to see also the geopolitics of where things are going. Take Cyprus as an example. We decided that it's real estate, it's passports, it's FX, it's a couple of... Okay, how about inviting the top 20 companies of the world to be here? That's what Mitsotakis is doing, right? Pfizer, 3,500 people in Thessaloniki. We have Google, we have Meta, we've got a few other people coming in, institutional people coming to Greece, right? And it could be that banks may come over here. In Cyprus, we're a little bit schizophrenic about that one. We want the internationals to come in, but we want the internationals that we can indirectly control, right? Why don't our two banks belong to JP Morgan or the SAE or to HSBC? It's not because they don't want to come here. It's because we don't want them here. Simple as that. And frankly, that's one example I keep using with my Cypriot friends. It's like, guys, let me tell you something. If you are from a village, right, and you're afraid that someone will come from the city to date your future girlfriend in the village, you don't want anyone to come there, right? Because you want to protect it as your own, right? But guess what? It's going to happen anyway, right?
Exactly.
So this is the thing. We're being defensive about certain things. And it makes me wonder why we're being defensive, while at the same time we're doing some amazing stuff. Right.
We're resisting change, but we're also
we want change.
We're absolutely if it's there on offer. But you're right; it's an element of control.
But imagine, it was something live 3 years ago, right? In Limassol, we'll have some amazing tech companies. We have probably within the residents of Limassol, who knows how many amazing people exist, right? When Bank of Cyprus was about to be sold to a US fund, like, no, we don't want these foreigners. We were about to pass a law to stop people from owning assets in Cyprus, right? Imagine how the foreigners look at it and say, these people are monkeys. I mean, what are they doing, right? Okay, unless there is a plan behind which foreigners, do you want that village or that village, right? Now, on the most optimistic side of things, look at what Greece is doing. It doesn't take much to make a change. It doesn't take much. And Limassol, you should feel proud of what's happening around here, because frankly, by making 4, 5, 6 moves, suddenly you have an amazing ecosystem with all the opportunities. Now, it's also amazing to see that people are looking at the future, whether it's in an energy transition, whether it's in financial services and blah, blah, blah. Now, the people who want to do a quick flip, guess what? You're always going to have these guys. And most of them will blow up. Okay. In FinTech Europe, there were probably 10, we were in the top 10 companies in FinTech Europe. 6 of them do not exist right now, right? Capitalism at its finest, right? So I wouldn't get too much bogged down about who's going to survive or not, because guess what? Those who have a plan, those who have a 10, 15 year, they will do it. It's fine. They will get beaten up on the way. But again, capitalism at its finest.
That's what I've struggled to see the long-term vision sometimes. So it's always nice when you meet people, and there are plenty of them here who are visionaries, and they have expectations, and they're actually willing to put in the work to achieve something different. And that brings me back to your 14 years. Every time we're talking to people who've been out there and got investors for their company in the startup and the entrepreneurial ecosystem, there's always talk of exiting at some point or another. How do you feel about Hellas Direct going forwards? Is this your baby? Are you one of these very possessive founders?
Okay, good question. For us, first of all, if you are building a big company, especially in the financial services, you've exited from day one. It's not that we build Hellas Direct in the garage and suddenly, that's the technology, that's the software side of things. On the more institutional side of things, we had our first round was 12 million. We actually had mini exits along the road. Some shareholders were bought by other shareholders. And as you institutionalize your share base, of course, I mean, we had Third Point as a shareholder. It was bought by Canada Life. It's a $1 trillion plus asset company. So for us, this is part of your evolution as a company. So it's not that you're going for this big event suddenly.
Bye-bye.
That's a softer side of things. That's a more sort of romantic story from Silicon Valley. So yes, that is something that you need to accept. Also, you also need to accept that you're growing as a human being, and maybe you're not as good as you were supposed to be, right? And I don't see myself as being this 90-year-old guy hanging around here and saying I know things better, because that's not what I believe, right? Now, I think that it's a combination of two things. How much do you enjoy the journey, okay? And what other plans do you have in your life, right? Now, if the two are both, the answer is I'm still enjoying my life and I don't have any other plans, okay? And assuming that this professional football team wants me around, you can be Ronaldo, who still plays football at 36, 37, right? And the good thing about financial services is that you don't have to be physically fit. You can still use your brain down the road. So I think it is not a sort of a one-off event, okay? And also founders don't really care about the financial returns. It's not that at the moment I make $1 billion suddenly. That's not how it works, right? So my advice to people as they're thinking about exit and stuff like that, think of it as part of the journey. You can have many kind of exits, and at some stage maybe it's a time to say, guys, time has come, right? Bow, thank everyone around, and fuck off, right?
Are you involved very much day to day?
Yeah,
you are.
For us, to be fair, that's where that's something that I also believe very strongly. Both myself and Alexis were, you're in the product, you are in the service. One thing that I read every single day is the complaints at lifedirect.gr. We have more than 1 million clients. I know exactly all the stats on NPS, and we know exactly the pipeline of product. Sneak preview, we're about to launch 8 HD financial services as a bank. We're going to be giving car loans and mortgages in the country that we operate. We are part of this whole thing, and I'm enjoying sitting with my head of product, the CFO, head of marketing, thinking about the next campaign.
I know. I love the whole changing insurance for good, here for good, and that you've just recently done something. I don't know, was it CSR, the whole Safe Roads thing?
Yeah.
How's that? You see that there's some really nice touches that I wouldn't expect to see from an insurance company. So I guess that differentiates you.
And again, for us, taking some guidance from the US, insurance companies have done some amazing stuff in marketing and in the customer side of things. No, for us, what happened in the last 2-3 years, in the beginning, marketing was Alexis and myself, and he's more the marketing and the more sort of communication side of things, and more the actuarial side of things. But to be fair, we've always had this idea of working on everything together. And it's not like he's doing this, I'm doing that. This is the 4I principle in its best form. So I think on marketing, we always had this in-house thing. We never had an agency. And then we hired a couple of amazing guys. George Spiliopoulos, who's running our marketing. He had nothing to do with insurance. He was in beers. He was at Nike.
Did he do the ducks?
No, I was actually the ducks we did because before he came. Yeah. So ducks actually came from a long story about we found some ducks in a hotel room. It's pretty cool. So we stole them. But the whole idea behind our communication strategy in the last 2-3 years was George's and his team's vision. For us, what we really liked about them was they institutionalized craziness, which was amazing. We didn't stop being crazy and innovative and stuff like that, but we had to somehow put some structure around it. It wasn't like, hey, Alexis woke up one day, we'll do this post, or Emilios thought about. No, that's not how it works. And that worked really well. The here for good approach, it was in essence what we're all about. We did do the focus groups. We did spend time to speak. At the time we had 500,000 clients to understand what they are thinking, but craziness came into it. And then he took something that was his brilliance. He said, look, we are already doing CSR. We are fixing roads for the last 10 years. We're giving scholarships. We're doing a lot of stuff. It's part of what we do. He said, okay, let's pick one, not 20, one, and do it well. And bring in the logistics of a last direct to road fixing. So rather than saying, hey, look at us, we did just, one pothole and one crossing. No, let's do 1,000 of them.
And post it on social media.
Yeah.
That's what, no, but here we do a lot of the sporadic stuff just to put it on social media. It's lacking, I think sometimes it's lacking the deeper purpose.
And you have, for
you
us,
have to commit to it, don't
one
you?
of our kind of KPIs was like how many SMSs we'll get from the local mayors to thank us, right? We got 100 of them, right? I want to make sure that every single school in Athens send us a note saying, can you please fix our pedestrian crossing? And through that, we managed to get a bunch of companies, because in Greece they're actually very good. And the volunteer side of things are actually amazing. We had free paint. We even had people delivering cheese pies, the morning after, to everyone who worked on the.
Nice.
So, but again, it's a scaling side of things. It's not the one post that we did that we all clapped and felt good about it, right?
And Wallet, I want to go on to AI actually, and how you think that might impact your side of the market. But so Wallet Plus is something new as well.
Wallet Plus was the first step into becoming a bank. And when I say bank, not a full deposit holding bank, to give credit to people, so people can borrow money from us. So what do we discover? We now have 1 million people that, other than crashing, about 10% of them will crash. So half of them were to blame. So we will fix 50,000 cars a year just from that. We also realized that they break down. It's not our fault. And they need to go and fix their cars and da-da-da. And they said, guys, I don't have 600 euros to fix my car. And by the time I go to my bank, it might take 3 months. So I'm out of a car. So we realized, okay, why don't we become the middleman between the bank and the client? And we launched it. It went amazingly well, because people said, finally, someone who can give me the 500 euros. And not only that, we said, okay, we'll give you the 500 euros, we'll pay the garage, we'll take your car, and even want to give you a free coffee from eFood. How about that? And the guy said, it's pretty cool, right? Let's go for it. And then Wallet Plus became its own entity, and now it's going to become its own credit entity. And the whole idea is to turn to our 1 million clients and saying, for anything you need on your car, in the future your home, we're here. You don't have to go to the bank. Come to us, whether it's I need 500 euros to fix my car, 5,000 euros to change the engine, all the way to I'm going to buy a used car. And that's exactly what the Americans did a few years back. So you totally run the full ecosystem.
And it's compassion, it's empathy and thinking of the consumer and the client and caring about making their life a little bit easier.
Exactly.
Added value.
And the consumer, the other thing we discovered, that's something that our food delivery guys told us. In Greece, more or less every day, there's about 300 to 400,000 deliveries through eFood, Wolt, and stuff like that. From the 400,000 deliveries, average size, 7-8 euros. Usually it's coffees and blah, blah, blah. You know how many of them have €1 of tip? Half. Okay. So these guys will, if you get your coffee, you'll pay the guy €1 just to say thank you, right? If I were to increase your annual insurance by €1, there would be a revolution. Right? Why the hell? Okay, right. So someone is voluntarily paying €200-300 a year for services, but not for insurance. Hint, hint, don't sell insurance, sell services, right?
Wow.
If we told our clients, you know what, forget insurance, mate. I'll give you the cheapest rate, but you want to take your car for a service. I'll pick it up, €30. I'll clean it up for you, €20. All of the stuff, people want to pay for services. Hence the amazing thing about food delivery and about every delivery, right? We failed as insurance companies to deliver happiness or services. You don't understand insurance. You don't give a shit about insurance, right? It's taxes, right? But why don't you give the same client services? Whether it's, here's €500 for you, go and fix your car, all the way down to, you know, buy a second-hand car. I'll check it for you. So all of the stuff, we are a million miles away from what this should be. So if you start putting everything together, effectively you want to go to your million clients and say, dude, anything about car? Here. Don't have to think about anything else. Right?
And then you retain the clients as well, I guess. Repeat, they're so happy. Why would they go anywhere else?
Yeah. And guess what? I mean, we have an amazing service here that you can only experience once every 10 years when you crash. So, and, you know, we have this motto, it's like Yoko, you only crash once. Because if you crash more than once, we don't want you as a client. But again, when you crash, you want to make sure that that experience is amazing, right?
So you're not going anywhere, obviously, here for good. Tell me about AI. This is always my last question on the podcast, because I'm fascinated by how little people are delving into it, using it. We're all talking about it, but no one's actually doing anything with it.
Okay. Again, I'll be a little bit controversial. We've always been doing AI at insurance. We're actually one of the first users of AI. When we price something, because it's a complex pricing algorithm, when I decide how much you should pay for insurance, we're probably looking at 80, 90 factors, ranging from where you live, what kind of car, blah. So the machine learning part was there. So we've always been using it. On the fraud detection side, on things that were happening behind the scenes, we were AI all in the last 10 years. The processing became better, became cheaper, more available. Blah, blah. Now, AI is affecting us on the two other sides. Productivity. I want every person in Last Direct to use AI. I'm using ChatGPT. If I see an email with the wrong grammar or spelling, you're pissing me off, right? Exactly. When I see a LinkedIn post by our marketing guys and it has a spelling mistake, it's an issue. So AI for us, we spread it everywhere. So whether it's on the post-its, or on the post, or even the emails that we send to customers, we can check our website for spelling mistakes within like 3 minutes, right? We can do that. We can change languages. We can do so. AI is changing the way we work. And our vision is that we will increase your productivity by 50%, including myself. I mean, I used to take a week to write a memo. Now I can do it in a day, right? I have to have a board meeting tomorrow. With Alex, we did our papers way faster than what it is. Now, the third one is like, what is the really special thing about AI? How it's going to change our business? And that's a hard one, because frankly, which ties in back to the ecosystem, our clients in the future will not be asking me, Mr. Markou, how much is my insurance? And I'll say, oh, can you please fill in all these things? And I'll tell you. The guy will ask a more generic question. I have a car. Okay, what shall I do? Including where shall I go? What happens if I break down? So the questions that are coming to the ecosystem player are totally different. So I need to get ready to accept these questions. So what we're building now, we have various mini projects of AI. One of them is called Eyes Yorgos. It's AI George, so St. George, who's the mechanic. So Eyes George,
I love that.
We're training Eyes George to say, hey, your car broke down, right? He said, okay, what car do you have, right? So we uploaded all the manuals of all the cars, all the error codes, saying, okay, Eyes George will tell you. So I'm not going to make money from Eyes George, but it's a way of interacting. We have another, this is the Shlomo guy, right? The guy who actually calculates the value of your car, right? I want to sell my car. How much do you think it's worth, right? I want to buy a car. So there's another AI tool that says, your car is worth 4,500. Do you want me to pay you now and I'll pick up the car? There's another one saying, okay, the chatbot, right? What shall I do now? I crashed, the support, and blah, blah, blah. So you need to bring all these things together. But then the fundamental question is, what are you? So if you haven't figured out that you're an ecosystem player and you're trying to be an insurance company with AI, you're not going to exist in the next 5 years, because people will not be talking to you. Why would in 5 years' time somebody go to a website, if there is a website, to check a price? The answer is, I have a car. So the question is, I have a car, help. Okay. And then your AI should respond back, whether it's Eyes George or someone saying, hey, did you break down? Or, what's wrong with your car, right? Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. So there are a lot of obviously proactively preparing for what's coming, which we're not seeing enough of. I think I need to familiarize myself a little bit more. I don't use it, you see, yet. And I have this, I don't know what it is. It's an insecurity, a fear of it not being able to deliver to my standards, but I'm pretty sure it's better than my standards.
But again, to be fair, start from the very basic one. That's how I introduce. I'm also resisting change in my life. I'm setting my own ways, but if you start thinking about how can I use this tool, this assistant, this thing, it's like when Google came, right? We went through that transition as a generation. I went from, hey, Emilios, go to the company library, photocopy a bunch of shit and summarize it, all the way to CDs, to Google, to blah, blah. Now it's the same thing, right? Why Google? Why go there? Straight. Ranging from, hey, I've got a memo I need to write. What do you think I should do? Here's a memo I wrote. Can you please fix it, right? And don't expect much, but it's a better version of Google. That will change your style.
Yeah.
The biggest question that you're going to have, and that's what people are really concerned, is that when you do ask these questions, you need to fundamentally think about your organization. What are you? Even if you're a marketeer, right? Let's say you are a copywriter. You will ask the question, what am I? If this guy can do all this amazing stuff. And me, I had to spend 2 weeks to write a memo, and now I can do it in a day. Probably, my colleagues are thinking, so what are you going to do for the next 13 days? If the memo was written in like a day. But if you're ready about repositioning your organization, then it's a blessing. It's an amazing blessing.
I suppose it helps you identify your added value and your core skills.
Correct.
I suppose, because it filters out all the rest, doesn't it? All the buffer.
Correct.
Okay. So talking about being set in our ways then, tell me a little bit about life-work balance. Are you still coming and going very often? Are you working all the time?
Again, I don't believe in this question, right? To be fair, for me, you have the balance that you want to have the balance, right? And for me, it's important that I have time to do the things I like. I like barbecues. I like hanging out with my kids, with my family. I like going, traveling with my wife. And you have to make for this thing. And it's not that, my work doesn't allow me for it, or I'll change my work. Now, once you have the plan in place, you will always going to be chasing your tail because things will not fall in place. And you need to be ready that, things may change and then readjust. If you have to travel the day you are expecting to have a windsurfing lesson, do your windsurfing lesson where you're going to go. And when you look at some of the, Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan or even the tech guys, they kind of set the balance and they keep missing it and they kept readjusting it, right? And that's how it is. But you don't expect that this thing will just fall into place. It's not.
No, but I mean, is it a cliche or do you really love your job and it doesn't feel like you're having to create a balance?
I love my job.
See, that's great.
You cannot. And again, every job is boring. There's no sexy job de facto. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
And the other thing is just quite important that insurance taught me that is that in a field where you think there's nothing, you can create amazing stuff. Who would have thought that the most proactive, most genius marketing teams would come from insurance?
Wow.
Right? Or real estate. I mean, do you need marketing in real estate? It's just a house, right?
Well, I'm questioning how much marketing I'm doing at the moment because of the nature of the market at the moment. It's all word of mouth. People are coming direct. What we end up doing is just literally maintaining awareness, brand awareness, so that people know we have credibility, but we do very little by way of targeted marketing these days.
Which is fine. Yeah. And maybe that's the way it should be. And maybe it is word of mouth. And maybe, again, but again, you don't start with the assumption that a company is boring or sexy by definition. And similarly, you can find every single function that you want to do in any company. Now, you are there because you love the people around, you love the dream, the mission, the whole. That's why you're there, right? It's not money. And by the way, you're gonna change jobs 10 times in your life. It's not that you're gonna be there forever. But the reason you're kept there is a combination of various stuff. Your job or your mission, if you wish to accept it, is to figure out your next challenge, right? And it isn't like I'm the co-CEO of a last egg and by definition that keeps me happy. Every single day I figure out what's my next challenge and how does it make me happy and so on.
That's great. So you're keeping yourself stimulated. Tell me about your children, because given what you've told me, because I completely agree with you, and my mum's an Inglesa, so I was very lucky. My father's quite open-minded as well. My sister went and did drama, so you can imagine. My sister did drama and I did TV. But we do have this thing, don't we, where parents in Cyprus, they actually give you everything. They give you the wings to fly away. And then somehow, it's not just that Cyprus is an attractive option, but there's something about the unity and the relationship with family and that family unit that brings you back because you want to be there for them when they get old.
Yeah.
You don't strike me as somebody who's going to put a leash on your children. So what are you encouraging them to do, or what are you not encouraging them to do?
First of all, I'm the opposite to your mother because I'm the Cypriot with my wife in Greece raising kalamarouthia. Basically, the joke with my friends is that if a policeman sees me and my wife with my children in the street, I will get arrested because we speak Cypriot Cyprus accent. They have fluent Greek and fluent English accent because they go to an English school.
Okay.
So there's no chance that those kids are
Yours.
And every time I go through passports, they're thinking like, "Don't talk because I'm gonna get arrested." Like, anyway. So, yes, I think for us, we are lucky that we live in a bigger society or you're more anonymous kind of society that you can actually do whatever you want. Yes, I want them to sort of have open mind, open weeks, and I have no issue with whatever they decide. It's a side joke. We were on this boat a couple of years ago. Me and my daughter were going for snorkeling, and the guy asked them, like the motorboat guy said, "So, honey, what do you want to do when you grow up?" She was like, "I want to be either a biochemist or an actor." He turns to me like, "Malaga, good luck." So
Classic.
It's like, very
Classic.
Greek style, coraggio. And to be fair, I think even the things that they will be thinking about, you need to accept, just as our parents, that this could be way out there, right? Now, most important things, spend the time with them, though, have experiences. I love internships. They should be doing a lot of internships. They should be, through you, being exposed to the world, whether it's working for Trilogy in the future or seeing the world around them so they can make a decision. And I grew up with 3 choices of ice cream. They're growing up with the 60 choices of ice cream. Let them try them out. Let them have a view about mango or passion fruit. I don't have a view because I've never tasted it, but off you go. And then let them decide. And then prepare for failure. I think Cypriot parents are not prepared for failure. This is a stigma.
Who is it whose father, the Spanx girl, her father used to high five her. He used to ask her every day, "What have you failed at today?" Yeah. He grew her up with that mindset that you should be excited by failures, not successes.
Yeah. And to be fair, that's one of the things that we carry as a generation. Right? It's a famous sort of fact that the 9 out of the 10 companies that helped Goldman's do an IPO, they underwrote the IPO, which were other investment banks, don't exist right now. 9 out of the 10. Lehman Brothers, Warburg, they just disappear, right? Imagine how many careers disappear. But when you look at those people, even the Lehman guys in 2008, they have successful careers ranging from being bakers to sort of restaurant owners, including finance, 20 years later. In Cyprus, we cannot overcome that. They say, I used to work for like a bank and this has stigmatized my entire life. It's been 10 years, 11 years. So I think we have this kind of, I would say, reaction to failure, or what people would say.
Biogosmos.
Exactly.
I think that it stems from the small society and the complex of always, people are talking, people πρέπει να είμαι σωστός, να κάνω
and
το
also
σωστό.
Because our parents, bless them, they did not fulfill their own dreams. Because if I'm completely fulfilled as a human being,
Exactly.
I couldn't care less if, of course I care, but again, it's your life. You can do whatever you want. And you can fail for 20 years straight and then succeed. By the way, the other thing that I hate about Cyprus, we quote people's failures. Look at this, bravo, Malaga. After so many failures, he succeeded. Why don't you do it for yourself? Like, no, this is different. This is like, yeah.
And why don't you do it before the final success 20 years later?
Yeah.
So, well, I think you've probably covered it, but if you could change one thing about Cyprus, what would it be? Like your biggest gripe?
I would say vision and conviction. Decide what you're gonna do when you grow up, okay, and be truly kind of transparent about it. Right? In Cyprus, it was always easy to say what we don't want, ranging from Cyprus problem. We don't want this. We don't want that. Everyone is pissed off about us. It's the Americani. No, just say what you want. Right? We're here. We're sitting at TGI Fridays. You're about to order. What is it you want? But I don't like food. We're here. This is the menu. What is it you want? Okay? We've never said that. Never. Not a single politician in Cyprus said that. Even if someone stand up and say, you know what? We're going to become the beaches of the Mediterranean. Fine. You just said it. Do it, right? As opposed to saying, I'm just going to stumble around and say.
That's sitting on the fence, isn't it? Again, that if you had to tie it into mentality, that's very similar to the whole small society complex. Nobody wants to say something unless everyone agrees with them. So it's safer just to be undecided.
And when you look at the Phidias effect, which I love, by the way, all right? He said, look, this is how I am. That's exactly who I am, and
Take
this
it
is
or
exactly
leave
what
it,
I will
yeah.
do, right? Now, you may like it or hate it, words of the Apple founder, right? But this is what genius is all about, right? Say what you wanna do. What I hate about Cyprus is that we're kind of nowhere, right? If you ask somebody right now, what's your relationship with Greece? No definition. What's your relationship with Turkey? No definition. What do you want to be when you grow up? The answer is, inshallah. I don't know. And this is where I think there's one thing I would change is this. Say it and be responsible for that decision. And that's fine. It's okay.
And if you had to describe Cyprus in 3 words, I'll give you 3. What it means to you in 3 words. Be
Family,
nice.
family, friends, DNA.
So and for the near future then, how often do you visit Limassol, Cyprus, Nicosia?
No, in Cyprus, spend probably half of my time around here. I am actually in and out of our offices, so 2 days here, 2 days there.
Okay.
So less now because we have to cover Romania and Czech Republic and so on, but yeah, I'm quite frequently here.
That's why you've managed to maintain the Gibriagi Profora in Athens.
I can never change that.
I can't actually speak proper Greek. I struggle when I'm in Greece.
I mean, one of the things they kept bullying me for ages. I mean, my pronunciation. They made so much fun of me in the UK. It's like, dude, you've been here for 20 years. Kind of just make an effort. Like,
oh, thank you very much, Emily.
Pleasure.
That was
Thank you so much.
a lovely insight. And like I said in the beginning of the conversation, you have succeeded in making insurance something of a subject with a bit of pizzazz, which you wouldn't expect. So I love the heart and soul that's gone into what you've achieved.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again soon for a different conversation.
Pleasure. And it goes without say, if you guys happen to be in Athens,
Well,
or
we will, yes.
Bucharest, or Prague,
or Slovakia.
or Slovakia, whatever, like it.
Take your pick. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest
Pleasure.
of your summer. And everybody else, thank you very much for being with us. And we'll see you again next time for another episode of Destination Cyprus. Destination Cyprus, brought to you by Cybarco.